friend of mine gave me one of his favorite books of folk tales, Italian folk tales selected and retold by Italo Calvino. And I like this one, Dauntless, Little John. There was once a lad whom everyone called Dauntless Little John because, well, he was dauntless. Nothing seemed to trouble him. He traveled his way through the world and one night was looking for a place to stay but didn't have a coin to rub together. And so the innkeeper said, well, I have no place for you, but I can show you a palace where you may stay for free if you're brave enough. Well, why would I need to be brave to stay in a palace? Asked our hero. Oh, said the innkeeper, no one has survived a single night in that palace. In fact, each time somebody tries to spend a night, the next morning, the monks from the village carry a pallet up to take away the body. All I need is wine, a sausage, and a candle, said Little John. Show me the way. So the innkeeper took him up to the palace. Little John settled himself down, and right around midnight, he began his feast. He poured himself a glass of wine. The clock began to chime 12, and a voice called out from the chimney, "Shall I throw it down?" "By all means," said Dauntless Little John. He sipped his wine as a leg thumped down to the bottom of the fireplace and hobbled its way across the floor towards him. Again the voice cried out, "Shall I throw it down?" "Go on," said Dauntless Little John, sipping his wine. Down came a second leg. "Shall I throw it down?" cried out the voice once more. "Yes, yes, go on." Dauntless Little John ate a bite of sausage. Down fell an arm and crawled across the floor towards the legs. "Shall I throw it down?" called the voice. "Yes, throw it down," said Little John. Down came a second arm. "Shall I throw it down?" called the voice. "My goodness, you are a bit of a Johnny One-Note. Yes, throw it down." Down came the trunk of a body, and the arms and the legs stuck themselves to it, and there stood a giant of a man without a head. "Shall I throw it down?" came the voice from the chimney. "By all means, throw it down," said Little John. Down rolled the head, stuck itself atop the neck. And truly, Little John had never seen a sight quite like this. He wiped his hands on his napkin, and he lit the candle. "Come with me," said the giant. "All right," said Dauntless Little John. "You go first." "You go first." "I insist," said the giant. "You lead the way." "You lead the way," said Dauntless Little John, and he wouldn't budge, candle in his hand. And the giant went first. The giant led him through every room in the palace, and there were many, many rooms, until they came at last to a door. "Open the door." "You open it," said Dauntless Little John. The giant opened the door. Steps led down into darkness. "Go on down." "You go first." And so the giant went first. Down in the cellar there was a great stone slab. "Move the stone," cried the giant. "You move it." And so the giant did, revealing 3 pots of gold. "Carry those upstairs." "You carry them," said Dauntless Little John. The candle was beginning to burn low. The giant carried the 3 pots of gold back up to the main room, then turned to Dauntless Little John and proclaimed, "The curse is broken. 1 pot of gold is for you." With that, one of the giant's legs detached itself and kicked its way back up the chimney. "The 2nd pot of gold," said the giant, "is for the monks who will come in the morning, assuming that you, like all the others, have perished." My gosh. Something very loud just happened in my house. Sounded like something enormous fell over. Okay, well, we'll carry on. So the second pot of gold is for the monks. All right, said Dauntless Little John, and with that the second leg detached itself and kicked its way up the chimney after the first. The third pot of gold, said the giant, is for the first poor person that you meet. All right, said Dauntless Little John. The two arms detached and clambered their way up the chimney as well. The palace is for you, said the giant. Its head popped off and the trunk managed to roll itself up. And the last words that the head said to Little John, before it too vanished up the chimney as if it had never existed, was, "The curse is broken, and now those who once owned this house are all released." Well, Little John curled up on the couch and he had quite a good sleep. And in the morning, he heard the sound of the monks making their way with the pallet up to collect his dead body. "Miserere, miserere," they sang. But what a surprise they had when they saw Dauntless Little John standing there smoking his pipe. Well, from that day on, Little John was a wealthy man. He had a palace, he had a pot of gold, and he had quite a reputation around town. But wouldn't you know it, one day he was out and about, and suddenly he caught sight of his own shadow, and he was so surprised that he dropped down dead of fright. Now I think I'm going to go see what fell over. I'm hoping it was just my bike. But I'll let you know if it's a disembodied leg and if I end up having 3 pots of gold myself.